In the vast expanse of the cosmos, where reality bent to the whims of ancient powers, there floated a citadel of impossible proportions. Crafted from the bones of fallen gods and wreathed in shadows that defied the laws of light, it hung suspended in an eternal twilight. This was the Osseous Spire, home to the most powerful Djinn sorcerers in all the realms. Within its twisting corridors and grand chambers, magic pulsed like a living thing, and the air crackled with potential energy. It was here, in this nexus of power and dark wonder, that Roran found himself thrust into a destiny he never could have imagined. Roran was no sorcerer, no Djinn, not even a scholar of the arcane arts. He was a simple blood courier, tasked with transporting vital fluids between the various factions and laboratories within the citadel. His role was menial, his status low, but it afforded him a unique perspective on the inner workings of this floating fortress of bone and shadow. As he navigated the winding passages, pushing his cart of carefully labelled vials, he couldn't help but marvel at the sheer majesty of his surroundings. Arches of polished rib bones soared overhead, while walls of compressed vertebrae pulsed with an inner light that seemed to follow his movements. On this particular day, as Roran made his usual rounds, he felt an unusual tension in the air. The shadows seemed deeper, the whispers of passing Djinn more urgent. He caught fragments of conversations that spoke of prophecies, of cosmic alignments, and of a power that could reshape reality itself. Roran tried to keep his head down, to focus on his task, but curiosity gnawed at him. He had always been too inquisitive for his own good, a dangerous trait in a place where knowledge could be as lethal as any spell. As he approached the grand laboratory of Malik, one of the most feared and respected Djinn sorcerers in the citadel, Roran noticed something odd. The usually pristine floor was marred by droplets of silvery blood, leading away from Malik's chambers. Without thinking, Roran followed the trail, his heart pounding with a mixture of fear and excitement. The droplets led him to a hidden alcove, where he found a wounded Djinn collapsed against the wall. It was Evander, Malik's apprentice, his ethereal form flickering like a candle in the wind. "You," Evander gasped, his eyes locking onto Roran with an intensity that froze the blood courier in his tracks. "You're the one, the prophecy. Your blood. It's the key." Before Roran could respond, could even begin to process what he was hearing, a bone-chilling scream echoed through the corridors. The very walls of the citadel seemed to tremble, and Roran felt a surge of power unlike anything he had ever experienced course through his veins. In that moment, as terror and wonder warred within him, Roran realized that his life as a simple blood courier had come to an end. Something momentous had been set in motion, and he was at the very heart of it. The scream that had echoed through the citadel was followed by an eerie silence, broken only by the laboured breathing of the wounded Evander. Roran, his mind reeling from the Djinn's cryptic words, found himself torn between the instinct to flee and the compulsion to help. "What do you mean, I'm the one? What prophecy?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Evander's flickering form stabilized slightly as he focused on Roran. "The Hemomancer's Codex," he rasped, "speaks of a mortal whose blood holds the power to bind or break the barriers between realms. Malik. He discovered it's you." The Djinn's words sent a chill down Roran's spine, the weight of their implications threatening to crush him. Before Roran could press for more information, the sound of approaching footsteps forced him into action. With strength born of desperation, he helped Evander to his feet and guided him into a hidden alcove just as a group of Djinn guards swept past, their eyes glowing with eldritch energy. As they concealed themselves in the shadows, Roran's mind raced. He was no one special, just a blood courier. How could his blood possibly hold such power? And yet he couldn't deny the strange sensations he'd been experiencing, the way the very fabric of reality seemed to ripple around him. Over the next few hours, as they carefully made their way through the twisting corridors of the Osseous Spire, Evander revealed more about the prophecy and the danger they faced. Malik, it seemed, had become obsessed with the idea of using Roran's blood to tear down the barriers between realms, believing it would grant him unprecedented power over both Djinn and mortals alike. "But he doesn't understand," Evander explained, his voice growing stronger as Roran's proximity seemed to stabilize his form. "Your blood is as much about creation as it is destruction. In the wrong hands, it could unravel the very foundations of existence." As they navigated the citadel's labyrinthine structure, Roran began to see his surroundings with new eyes. The pulsing lights within the bone walls took on a sinister quality, and he could swear he saw faces forming in the swirling shadows, watching their every move. The citadel itself seemed alive, aware of the momentous events unfolding within its confines. They encountered other members of the citadel's hierarchy, Djinn scholars arguing in hushed tones over ancient texts, apprentice sorcerers hurrying past with arms full of arcane ingredients. Everyone seemed on edge, as if the very air was charged with anticipation of some great and terrible change. Their journey brought them to a vast chamber that Roran had only heard whispered about, the nexus of confluences. Here, streams of raw magic converged from all corners of the citadel, forming a swirling vortex of pure energy at the chamber's center. It was here that Evander believed they could find a way to protect Roran and prevent Malik from carrying out his dangerous plan. But as they entered the chamber, they found they weren't alone. Malik himself stood before the vortex, his form more shadow than substance, tendrils of dark energy writhing around him. His eyes locked onto Roran, and a smile that promised both rapture and oblivion spread across his face. "At last!" Malik's voice boomed, shaking the very foundations of the citadel. "The key to ultimate power stands before me." In that moment, as fear and defiance warred within him, Roran realized that every drop of his blood, every beat of his heart, had led him to this point. The true test of his destiny was about to begin. The nexus of confluences erupted into chaos as Malik made his move. With a gesture, he sent a wave of shadowy tendrils surging towards Roran. Evander, still weakened but driven by desperate resolve, threw himself in front of his newfound ally. The Djinn's form rippled and distorted as the dark magic tore through him, but his sacrifice bought Roran precious seconds. In that moment of crisis, something awakened within the former blood courier. He felt a surge of power, raw and primal, coursing through his veins. Instinctively, Roran thrust out his hand, and a barrier of shimmering blood-red energy manifested between him and Malik's assault. Malik's laughter echoed through the chamber, a sound of equal parts amusement and hunger. "Yes!" he crowed, his form growing larger, feeding off the energy of the nexus. "Embrace your power, mortal. Let it flow through you, and together we shall reshape reality itself." But Roran stood his ground, the barrier holding firm as his mind raced. He thought of all he had learned, of the delicate balance between realms, of the responsibility that had been thrust upon him. With each pulse of his heart, the barrier grew stronger, taking on a life of its own. Streams of energy from the vortex began to divert, drawn to Roran as if recognizing a new center of power within the chamber. The battle that ensued was unlike anything the Osseous Spire had ever witnessed. Malik hurled spells of incalculable power, each capable of unraveling the fabric of space and time. Roran, guided by instinct and the whispered advice of the fading Evander, countered with abilities he never knew he possessed. His blood became a weapon and a shield, forming intricate patterns in the air that absorbed and redirected Malik's attacks. The very bones of the citadel groaned and shifted, responding to the titanic forces being unleashed within. Other Djinn, drawn by the commotion, watched in awe from the periphery, unable to intervene in a conflict that was rapidly escalating beyond their comprehension. As the battle raged, Roran began to understand the true nature of his power. It wasn't just about destruction or creation, but balance. With every spell he cast, he felt the pull and push of the realms, the delicate equilibrium that his blood allowed him to perceive and manipulate. Malik, in his blind hunger for dominion, was oblivious to this greater truth. The dark sorcerer pressed his attack, his form growing more monstrous with each passing moment, fueled by the corrupted energies he was channeling. The chamber itself began to buckle under the strain, rifts appearing in reality, offering glimpses of other worlds, some wondrous, others nightmarish. In the midst of this chaos, Roran made a decision that would alter the course of all realms. Rather than continue to fight against Malik, he turned his focus to the Nexus itself. Understanding dawned on him. The vortex wasn't just a confluence of energies, but a linchpin holding the citadel and the realms in alignment. With a deep breath, Roran plunged his hands into the swirling maelstrom of magic. Pain, unlike anything he had ever experienced, tore through him, but he held firm. His blood, the key to everything, began to mix with the energies of the Nexus. Malik, realizing too late what was happening, let out a howl of fury and desperation. "No! You'll doom us all!" But it was too late. The chamber filled with a blinding light, as Roran's blood, infused with the power of the Nexus, began to rewrite the very laws of reality around them. The fate of all realms hung in the balance, poised on the edge of a transformation beyond imagination. The blinding light that had engulfed the nexus of confluences slowly faded, revealing a chamber transformed. Where once there had been chaos and destruction, now there was an eerie calm. Roran found himself floating in the center of the vortex, his body translucent and pulsing with residual energy. The pain that had threatened to tear him apart moments ago had subsided, replaced by a profound sense of connection to everything around him. He could feel the ebb and flow of magic throughout the citadel, the delicate balance between realms now restored and strengthened. Malik was nowhere to be seen, his form seemingly dissolved in the aftermath of Roran's desperate gambit. As Roran descended from the vortex, his feet touching the solid ground of the chamber, he noticed the changes wrought by his actions. The bone structures of the Osseous Spire had been reshaped, now flowing in graceful organic patterns that hummed with harmonious energy. The shadows that had once lurked in every corner seemed less menacing, more a natural part of the citadel's ambience. The Djinn who had witnessed the battle approached cautiously, their eyes wide with a mixture of fear and reverence. Among them, Roran spotted Evander, the apprentice's form now stable and radiant with renewed vitality. What have I done?" Roran asked, his voice echoing with newfound power. Evander stepped forward, a smile of wonder on his face. "You've fulfilled the prophecy, but not in the way anyone expected," he explained. "Instead of destroying or dominating the realms, you've harmonized them. The barriers remain, but they're now permeable, allowing for a natural flow of energies between worlds." As Evander spoke, Roran became aware of faint whispers and visions at the edge of his consciousness, glimpses of other realms, of the intricate web of reality that he now played a part in maintaining. In the days that followed, the full extent of the changes became apparent. The Osseous Spire, once a stronghold of dark sorcery and power struggles, had been transformed into a nexus of learning and cooperation. Djinn from various factions, who had long been at odds, now worked together to understand the new order of things. Roran found himself at the center of it all, respected not as a ruler or a god, but as a mediator and guardian. His blood, still the key to the realms, no longer needed to be spilled to work its magic. Instead, his very presence helped maintain the delicate balance he had established. Yet, with this new role came new challenges. Roran sensed disturbances in distant realms, echoes of conflicts and imbalances that threatened the harmony he had created. He knew that his work was far from over. The power he wielded was both a gift and a burden, one that would require constant vigilance and wisdom to manage. As he stood atop one of the citadel's highest spires, gazing out at the twilight realm that housed the Osseous Spire, Roran couldn't help but reflect on how far he had come from being a simple blood courier. The future stretched out before him, filled with endless possibilities and responsibilities. And somewhere, in the vast expanse of the realms, he sensed that Malik's essence still lingered, a reminder that the forces of chaos and destruction were ever present, waiting for any opportunity to upset the balance once more. Months passed, and Roran grew into his role as the guardian of the realms. The Osseous Spire, once a citadel of dark majesty, had become a beacon of balanced power, drawing seekers of knowledge from across the dimensions. Roran's daily routine involved mediating disputes between Djinn factions, teaching young sorcerers the importance of equilibrium, and fine-tuning the intricate web of energies that connected the realms. Yet despite the peace he had brought, a nagging sense of incompleteness plagued him. The true extent of his blood's power remained a mystery, one that both excited and terrified him. On the eve of the Grand Conjunction, a celestial event where the barriers between realms grew thinnest, Roran stood atop the highest spire of the citadel. The sky above was a tapestry of overlapping realities, each one a window into a world of infinite possibilities. As he gazed into the cosmic display, a familiar voice echoed in his mind. "Magnificent, isn't it?" said Malik, his tone a mixture of admiration and envy. The dark sorcerer's essence had survived, formless but ever-present, a shadow at the edges of Roran's consciousness. "You've done what I never could, balance the unbalanceable, but do you truly understand the power you wield?" Before Roran could respond, a surge of energy rippled through the citadel. The conjunction had begun, and with it came a revelation that shook Roran to his core. As the barriers between realms thinned, his blood reacted, pulsing with a power that threatened to overwhelm him. Visions flooded his mind, not of the present or the future, but of the distant past. He saw the creation of the Djinn, the forging of the realms, and at the center of it all, a being that looked remarkably like himself. The truth hit him with the force of a collapsing star. His blood wasn't just the key to the realms, it was the source from which they had sprung. As Roran grappled with this earth-shattering realization, the citadel around him began to shift and change. The bone structures pulsed with renewed energy, responding to the turmoil within their guardian. Evander and the other Djinn rushed to the spire, their faces etched with concern. "Roran!" Evander called out, his voice barely audible over the roar of colliding realities. "You must control it. Your blood, it's rewriting the very fabric of existence." And indeed it was. With every beat of Roran's heart, the realms shimmered and reshaped themselves. What he had thought was harmony now revealed itself as merely the first step towards a greater transformation. In that moment of crisis, poised between unimaginable power and the annihilation of all he had sought to protect, Roran made his choice. With a supreme effort of will, he turned his power inward, not to control the realms, but to understand them. His consciousness expanded, encompassing the entirety of existence. He saw the intricate dance of energies, the ebb and flow of magic that tied all things together. And in that cosmic tapestry, he finally understood his true role. As his blood calmed and the realms settled back into their new configuration, Roran opened his eyes, forever changed. He was no longer just a guardian or a mediator. He was the living embodiment of the realms themselves, a cosmic constant given form and consciousness. The Osseous Spire, the Djinn, even Malik's lingering essence, all were parts of a greater whole, a symphony of reality that Roran now conducted with every fibre of his being. As dawn broke over the citadel, bathing it in the light of a million intertwined realities, Roran embraced his destiny, ready to guide existence itself towards a future of endless possibility.